All right, we got quite a bit to get through here. The purpose of this video is to help anybody who is wanting to just know if they can successfully get back with an ex and understanding what's happening in your body after a breakup. I think that we all go through things during breakups, before breakups, and relationships, and we don't know how to actually rationalize them or understand what we're physiologically going through, emotionally going through. You know, people will just say things like, oh, just get over it or move on, or, you know, it wasn't meant to be, or there's all these like surface terms around it. A lot of them are just garbage. And it's like, well, why do I actually feel this way? What's happening biologically, chemically, and all of that stuff? So that's the point of this video, is to help anyone that's going through that. Understanding what's happening in your body after a breakup, I do think can be one of the most useful things you ever learn. So I highly encourage you to stick around. And whether you have felt withdrawal, don't exactly know why after a breakup, went through emotional waves like going through old texts, old pictures. Maybe you do want your partner back, but you don't know how to successfully make that happen. Or, you know, maybe you're the one that became numb, cold, checked out, stonewalled. You loved somebody one week and then fell out of love the next. And maybe new attention from others is attractive now when you were just shutting it down. So what's going on here? I think first we have to understand why we fell in love in the first place. So we're going to be focusing on dopamine, oxytocin, and cortisol. Those are the main three. There is serotonin, endorphins, testosterone, etc., but we're not focusing those. The main three are dopamine, oxytocin, and cortisol. All right. So at one point you were single and maybe you were open and you were looking. Maybe you weren't. Then one day the right person says something. This could be a compliment, a validation, a gesture, whatever it is. It spikes your dopamine, which is the spark. Dopamine can feel like butterflies, cravings, wanting to check your phone all the time, see if that person texts, right? Optimism, anticipation to see them or hear from them. It feels like a reward system because it is. It focuses your attention on the partner. Flirty texts, compliments, good morning texts, new experiences, playfulness, unpredictable gifts, trying new positions. So that's the first part of it. Then dopamine will move into, oxytocin, which is, bond and safety. That's calmness and feeling safe and stable around someone. That's a sense of home, closeness, trust, empathy. It gets rid of stress and fear. Your bond kind of moves into considering them family. And this comes from long hugs, sex, especially unprotected, skin to skin touch, staring at each other in the eyes, affection, caregiving, deep conversations, dating rituals and traditions together. So you don't even have to work for these in the early stages of a relationship. Your body will just do all this for you as you move into it, and it progresses naturally. High levels of oxytocin and dopamine are just as addicting as cocaine. This is where people will also say things like forever or making crazy plans. They'll do really over the top things. People might even be doing things that they normally wouldn't do, saying things that they normally wouldn't, people pleasing, right? They're going above and beyond. Because they want to hang on to those feelings, and it chemically makes sense. When dopamine and oxytocin are high, this is when someone will say they love you. That's where the love feeling comes from. High levels of oxytocin can also turn your partner into an attachment figure. They become your rock. When you experience a dopamine or oxytocin drop, you will feel unsafe. You can literally ache for them. This can be just as bad as actual withdrawal symptoms. This isn't just crying or feeling sad, but your body aches, jittery, restlessness, feeling like you're crawling out of your skin. Someone will be talking and you'll be zoning out, right? You can't pay attention. Now, the third pillar is cortisol. This is stress and threat. Cortisol feels like tension, anxiety, walking on eggshells, shortness of breath, not being able to express yourself, the feeling of not doing or being enough, the desire to withdraw or escape, not being heard or felt. This comes from frequent arguments, criticism, defensiveness, inconsistency, pressure for sex, not talking about expectations, lack of support or communication, feeling dismissed or like your feelings don't matter. This all activates a fight or flight. High blood pressure can mess up sleep. Ultimately, this rewires your nervous system to think your partner is a stress cue. Now, I need to repeat that. This literally rewires your nervous system to think that your partner is a stress cue. All of those senses and feelings will flip and they will be coded as a stress cue. This is biological. It's not personal or even conscious most of the time. So picture these three columns, right? Dopamine, oxytocin, cortisol. Keeping love alive is more or less this chart chemically. Ideally, dopamine and oxytocin would be balanced and cortisol would be low. Some contention is healthy. Someone that challenges you is okay because maybe they just want what's best for you and the relationship. So holding each other accountable to whatever the goal and aim of the relationship is. Not thinking that every hard conversation is an argument, but that sometimes hard conversations are going to happen, especially over a lifetime with someone. And as people are infinitely complex and complicated and half the time don't even know themselves fully and we're constantly changing. But that cortisol spike should never become higher than the dopamine and the oxytocin. Now, when a breakup happens, if a breakup is not fully mutual, let's say that you're the one that got broken up with, what happens is the dopamine and oxytocin drop and then your cortisol spikes and you will have those withdrawal symptoms and you are, best believe it, biologically and chemically withdrawing. Now, for the person that initiated the breakup, over time, their dopamine was dwindling to no thrill or novelty. The spark started to feel flat. Dopamine adds color, and when it's gone, you might hear that partner say something like they're not seeing it with rose-colored glasses anymore. When the oxytocin shifts to cortisol, well, those bonds are not immune to stress. So when you're not feeling seen, you're being criticized, the safety part collapses, and that oxytocin doesn't feel like comfort anymore. It can feel like a glue that they want to peel off, something they want to escape from. That's feeling smothered or shallow breathing, feeling drained and exhausted. Cortisol from all those things will have that person looking for escape routes. This is biological. Now, you will often hear people say things after a breakup like, oh, but you said you loved me. You told me forever. You said I was the only person. You said I was the best. You'd be with me forever, blah, blah, all these beautiful things, right? Now, did you mean it or was it all a lie? They meant it at the time they said it when their dopamine and oxytocin were high and the cortisol was low. Now that dopamine and oxytocin are low and cortisol is high, they biologically do not feel the same. I know that's extremely hard to accept because you can't take back everything that got it there. This is another hard truth. It's not that your partner can't feel oxytocin and dopamine anymore. It means that their brain and their nervous system stopped linking you to those signals. You became a source of cortisol rather than peace. So this is where people will say things like, I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore. This is also how people can maybe say, oh, we can just be friends. Because there's still oxytocin there, which is familiarity and care, but there's no dopamine. And they also still have you wired as a stress cue. That dopamine and oxytocin has been replaced with cortisol, so you're no longer novelty and safe. You are familiar, predictable, and potentially threatening. So, to get to the point of the video, can you flip this and make it work with an ex? All the studies say potentially yes. So there's hope. But what you have to do is accept that they might not want to. And if that's how they feel, you can't do anything about it. If their body has now coded you as stress and they don't want to work on it, then it's done. Falling back in love how it was in the beginning is rare. And this is because falling in love with someone the first time is easy. Your body and chemicals do most of it for you. Falling back in love is hard because it requires the person to consciously override their nervous system to allow the potential for certain conditions to be met. Let's go over those conditions. But hold on, I just want to say that again. I just need to say that again, okay? Falling back in love how it was in the beginning is rare, and this is because falling in love with someone the first time is easy. Your body and chemicals do most of it for you. Falling back in love is hard because it requires the person to consciously override their nervous system to allow for the potential of certain conditions to be met. Let's go over those conditions. 1, a conscious agreement. So both people have to agree that they're going to try again 100%. Not 90, not 80, not 50, not, oh, we'll see. It needs to be 100. And the reason for that is that the brain and the nervous system will not risk rewiring someone as a stress cue if you're actually planning on just half-assing it. There has to be a conscious agreement. Your system will not risk it if you were not in it 100%. 2, there has to be space, reduce contact. This seems contradictory, but scarcity is what resets and resensitizes dopamine. If you jump right back into it with a daily overload, the brain cannot reassociate novelty. If you're with someone 24/7, you can't miss them. You need space. You need space to resensitize. 3, new patterns. If everything is the same, it'll trigger the same, it'll end the same, it'll be the same. There needs to be new habits, new things to do. Different or better communication. You have to share small wins with each other, things you guys are achieving together. And this has to be a team effort. It can't just be one person trying to magically get this right. Number 4, and this is probably just as huge as number 1, but outside boundaries. Everyone, please listen to this. You have to agree to shut down outside romantic stimulation from other people, which depending on where each partner is at can be very hard. Because with a brand new partner or a potential interest with someone, like someone sliding in your DMs or hitting on you when you're out and about, there isn't the cortisol spike. It's fresh and easy dopamine. And you're naturally wired to want the highest amount of dopamine from the littlest amount of work or tension. That's why it's so much easier for partners to move on than to decide to go through some mud and work on it together, especially if it hasn't worked after multiple attempts. It takes a lot of work to rewire someone in your system who got coded as cortisol and rebuild dopamine with them and to try to get those levels right. The first time you fall in love, it's highly unconscious and it just happens. If you were trying to fall back in love with someone, it's an active choice. You ever see someone rebound super hard or get out of a marriage only to jump in a different one after 2 months? It's because they went so long with dopamine and oxy low and cortisol high that now having dopamine and oxy high feels so good that they'll just do whatever. That doesn't make it logical or wise, but when you're starved, any amount of food is easy to overindulge in. Now, I don't want to discourage you guys, but I want to be real about the numbers here. The studies vary, but about 20% of couples that break up get back together. Now, for those who do not have these 4 agreements in place, less than half of those couples work. For those that do, the potential is high. But you got to think about it, out of all the breakups, only 20 and then only half of those. So, it's a small percent. But if you have those 4 agreements in place and there is love there, yes, it can work. But most don't make it because conditions are hard and new dopamine from others is easier. Now, that doesn't mean that your brand new relationship that you got in with someone else, you won't just go ahead and repeat the same patterns or cycles that got you there with your last partner, but that's a different subject entirely. So, for a closing thought, yes, it's possible, but it isn't natural. It's a deliberate uphill choice that you have to be willing to work through, to have faith. You have to actually see a potential timeline with that person, and you have to believe in marital-like vows. Good luck, friends. I hope that you get whatever you needed from this video, and God bless you on your journey.